Hello, and today we will be interviewing a veterinary technician. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Cash. And first, I'd like to apologize for my dog in the back. He's not used to sounds coming from the computer so much.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with some questions. I guess the first one is just an obvious one. What is your favorite part of just your job?
It's a great question. Obviously, the animals. I don't think anybody, at least in my experience that I work with, would be in this field or doing this job if they didn't have a profound love for animals. So that's the reason why we all show up every day. These critters that we see, we treat primarily dogs and cats, and they don't have a voice. They can't tell us what hurts or why it's hurting. So it's the doctor's job and the nurse's job to perform diagnostics and treatment to try to mend what they can't verbalize. So I think my biggest joy comes from just treating animals and seeing them improve. That would be my favorite part.
Well, I would hope that you love animals if you are a veterinary technician or just in the careers general. And yeah,
Yes.
I mean, you help save the animals we love. So
Yeah.
yeah. I guess moving on to my next question is what are just some challenges that you experience on the day to day?
Yeah. So typically, I'd say probably the biggest challenges that we have to face would be what we refer to as fractious animals. So basically, that's a dog or a cat that's extremely timid to the point that lashing out kind of comes, in trying to bite or in growling. You're kind of unable to touch it, and everything we do involves having to interact with the animal in that way. So I think that's a huge challenge that a lot of us have to take slowly and overcome. And it can be pretty frustrating at times, and you can't let that frustration get to you because animals can sense that. They can sense fear, they can sense frustration, stress, things like that. So I think that's the biggest challenge we see. And then second to that would be sometimes we have owners come in that want their animal to be treated and want their animal to feel better. But either they can't afford to pay for certain treatments. Some of the more extensive treatments are going to be highly expensive. Or maybe they aren't willing that day. They want to start with something more simple. So sometimes we kind of have to figure out a game plan that's going to work with the owner. Both financially, but that still is going to allow us to see that animal improve.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you ever get scared of like the bigger animals that are more aggressive?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that definitely comes with time, learning how to approach those animals, kind of having to read the room the second you walk in. Their body language says so much in those first few seconds. So I pretty much know right away, like, this animal, we're just going to sit here on the ground and talk to the owner first and kind of ignore them, and let them come up to you as slowly as they want to. In cases where we absolutely can approach an animal and it's too difficult, it does get pretty scary. And so we just ask for the owner's help in those cases, whether that be, hey, can you put this muzzle on? And while muzzling is never something we want to have to do, at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves too, as well as the animal. So we have that option, or sometimes we just will use mild sedatives. There are both injections and tablets that animals can take that kind of calm them down and help the experience be a lot less stressful for everyone involved.
Yeah. Well, I guess a follow-up to that is really have you developed techniques to deal with them specifically?
Yeah, a lot of times I'd say, like I said, in those first few seconds of entering an exam room, um, You can kind of tell by their body language. So I kind of tend to, whenever I walk into an exam room, sit on the floor right away. Because whether the dog's big or small, a human that they're a stranger to, it can be pretty intimidating for someone taller than them to come in and kind of approach them super quickly. So I usually will just take a seat on the ground, let them come to me. We love to use treats. Actually, at our clinic, something we call it puppy magic, but we use it for dogs and cats of all ages, is just spray cheese from Walmart. So I don't know if you guys know, it comes in the can and you spray it on crackers. Most animals love it. Treats are a great way to break a barrier because a lot of dogs will become more trusting if you've got some food. So that's a big one we use. And just being super gentle. So like approaching not up from above the head, but underneath, kind of scratching their chin, petting their chin, scratching their chest, things like that, versus where they don't feel so intimidated by your hand because it's underneath, it's not hovering above. So I'd say those would probably be my big three.
Well, yeah, because and we're bigger than them.
Mm-hmm.
Look bigger.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
So, moving on, I guess I know you probably have a lot, but what is your favorite experience that you've had working?
My favorite experience, I would say probably, well, yeah, let's go with three. I've got three main ones. Um, One of the main ones I love every day are puppy visits. So those are dogs we're typically seeing between the ages of 8 and 16 weeks old. So they're pretty tiny. They're still very happy to come to the vet, very happy to see everybody. And they're small and still growing. So we all love puppies. They're super cute. I love doing those visits. Um, the second thing would be at the clinic I work at, Riverside Pet Care in Saratoga Springs, Utah. We are both a general practice and a reproductive facility. So we work with a lot of breeders that are breeding different breeds of dogs. And we'll actually do C-sections on some animals. So we see those puppies as soon as they're out of the womb. So we see puppies minutes old. And that's been a pretty cool experience to see them that young and that little. And then my third one would be actually pretty recent case that we took on. The dog had developed a bowel obstruction from eating something it shouldn't have. So we saw him from that initial visit presenting with symptoms like vomiting and lethargy. We removed the foreign body through surgery, and then we've seen that dog for a number of follow-ups, and he actually came in today and he's doing much better. Everything seems to be improving and he's his old self again. So things like that, those are my favorites.
So, puppies, puppies, and then recovery. I
Yes.
guess you could say. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Uh, I guess something else is, was this always the profession that you wanted to go through?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, from I can't even remember when I first wanted to be a vet. I was that young. And so when I was a freshman in college, I was a biology major. And I didn't like it because I felt like I wasn't learning enough about animals. So the university I was attending at the time didn't have like an animal sciences program. And I was a gymnast as well in college, so heavily involved with the exercise science department and athletic training departments through that. And so I decided to pursue another route. I became an exercise science major in hopes of becoming a rehab specialist for dogs, but found out I actually loved the human side of that a lot more. So plan was to move out to Utah and go to the University of Utah for a master's degree. But while I was taking some time off from school after graduating from college, I a friend set me up at my previous clinic as a vet nurse assistant, and I fell in love with the job. And so I've been at it ever since, almost 2 years now. So not very long, but it feels long because I love what I do every day, and I feel like I have a lot of experience because of that. Um, and so kind of still debating at this point if I want to pursue vet school or just stick with being a nurse. But so in a roundabout way, yes, but no.
Well, I mean, you'll never really work a day in your life if you enjoy what you're doing. So
Yeah.
just do what you enjoy. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's cool, knowing what you want to do from a very young age.
Yeah. Yeah. I was born in a house. We had two dogs. And all growing up, when dogs passed, we always had two dogs at a time. So I always was around a lot of animals, always loved going to the vet appointments with my mom and loved asking our family vet a lot of questions. So yeah, I guess just for as long as I can remember, I've had that interest.
Awesome. Okay. I think I have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just speak to the majority, kids, adults, what is one thing you would share about your job and just how you do it?
Yeah, I'd say if I was kind of summarizing it for people who were asking what it was like, I'd say it's extremely rewarding, but you also have to be prepared for the downsides. So obviously, there's a lot of fun and joy that comes from those puppy visits I mentioned. But we do see some pretty sick animals. We have to deliver some hard news. So I'd say it's a wonderful, amazing profession to be involved in. But a good thing to know going into it is being able to understand that suffering is a part of life, and sometimes we've got to um, work with owners to find out what's going to be the best for the pet. So we often have to take ourselves out of the equation and think about who we're treating. It's hard. We all, as you guys know, we all love our pets beyond words. There's no way to describe it. Um, but at the end of the day, we've got to think about how they're feeling and a little less about how it's going to make us feel.
Because in the end, it's really just it's for the pets. It's for them. It's not for us.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And that's
Okay.
that's a hard thing to learn, but it does make it a rewarding profession too.
Okay. I did lie though. There's one or two more questions that I just saw, so I'm
Okay.
gonna ask you them. I
Mhm.
get because I completely zoned out on this. What is the most unique animal you've probably worked with?
Um, so at my previous clinic, it was called Animal Care Daybreak, and we had an exotics department there. And while I didn't work for the exotics department, I'd see a lot of the animals they were treating. And I'd say the craziest one I've seen is I'm not quite sure the type of snake it was, but it was about 20 feet long and probably as big around as most of our heads. So it was huge. And I'm not a snake person, so that was crazy experience to see that live.
I couldn't do that with a snake that big.
And that's why I don't work in the exotics department. I'm definitely a dog and cat girl.
Okay. Okay. This will be last one.
Mhm.
Um, if students are interested, or just anyone really in general, I guess could you explain how they could maybe get into being a vet or a vet tech a little more?
Yep, for sure. So a few ways if you guys are looking to do it from kind of the middle or high school age, just finding a local veterinary office, local animal shelter or rescue, and volunteering your time or asking to shadow a veterinarian or a veterinary nurse. Those are a great place to start from a younger age. Otherwise, I don't know when they're changing this, but the state of Utah actually lets you learn on the job. So, like I said, I started off as a veterinary nurse assistant, and I worked my way up to being a full veterinary nurse. So you could start that way, but eventually they'll be changing that to where you'll need like an associate's degree. So from some sort of accredited program, but I think it's only typically like a 2 year program, and there's are some hours you have to fulfill and things like that. So you can do that straight from high school too. You don't need a college degree to be a veterinary nurse. You just need that certification. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take this time. If you wanted to ask me questions or just say something, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Um, I'd like to know what kind of pets you guys have.
Oh, well, for me, I have one Labradoodle, but it's
Okay.
it's it's not a big one. It's one of
Mhm.
the smaller ones. Curly hair, black haired, very energetic dog, but not violent in any way.
Yeah. Uh, I actually love doodles. I have one myself. So I'm a big fan of Labradoodles, Golden Doodles. So that's super cute.
Yeah, he's really cool.
I bet.
Well, thank you for coming out and talking with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. See ya.
Bye.